Have you ever heard of art trading cards? It's art of a specific size. This size? I want to hand paint some. We are going to attempt to paint 100 trading cards. So you might be wondering how we got here. Well, I am planning to launch my very first shop. I'm a strong believer that everybody should own an original piece of art, whether that's a drawing or painting, but original art is pricey, and for good reason. It takes a lot of time and skill, and if it's a commission, there's a lot of back and forth trying to get it perfect. How do we make original art accessible to the majority? The biggest factor is the amount of time spent. It's going to be a challenge. We need to figure out how to make this as efficient as possible. Mystery art trading cards. I don't know about you, but I love a good mystery pack. But I've never seen a mystery pack of an original painting before. Are we gonna manage it? There will be 10 art themes and each of them will have 10 different trading cards. You won't know which of the 10 you receive, so all 100 pieces of art are completely unique. These are my original ideas, and as you can see, some of them have stuck, some of them haven't. There will be 100 trading cards, 10 different themes. Pinky red, a pinky purple, red, purple, purple blue, blue, blue green, yellow green, and green. These are the core colors for the colorful themes that we're gonna use. Second is galaxies. I want to do 10 different galaxies in all of these themes. I think those will probably be where I'm most comfortable. So there's a few different approaches to this. We could take each color at a time, or we could do it per theme. That's enough talk, let's do it. 10 galaxies using this paper. Cut up a ton of sheets, but I have no clue what's the front and the back. Like, it's so difficult to tell on this paper. We're also gonna have a little bit of wiggle room where the tape's gonna go because we're using watercolor and we're gonna be using a lot. So we need water, we need paint. Obviously we need paintbrushes because we're making a big mess and it's all color themed. I've created a ton of galaxies in the past, but this one here is my favorite. I added gouache and I absolutely love it. So that's the reference for these pieces. And first we're starting off with red before realizing I don't have enough darker shades. Neutral tin and Payne's grey are looking pretty empty and we're gonna need a lot. So quickly gonna top up those and it's time. First up is red. The base for this one is a cadmium red that I have by Jackson's Art. And at the same time as making this galaxy, we're also gonna make a plain flat wash that we're gonna be using for a future idea. There's a page of red shades, moving on to purple shades, which are also running a little bit low, going into blue, then green, and ending with yellow. But of course we need fresh water because otherwise these colors are gonna get very messy. And I do have a system for this. Ages and ages ago, I actually created a galaxy tutorial that I'll leave down below. It was a long while ago, but I still use the exact system. I've created galaxies for years. They're one of my favorite things to paint, and this is my favorite way to do it. 2 layers of color and dark tones going into gouache. Whilst it's still a little bit wet, we need a hard brush because we're also splattering stars. The first layer needs to be dry to go into that second layer because the gouache needs to be added whilst it's wet. It spreads in the paint and looks so pretty. Honestly, if you've never dropped gouache in watercolor, you really should give it a try. Gotta be really careful though because it's easy to accidentally contaminate it. And then the white kind of goes pink or different colors. But this hard brush is perfect for splattering stars. So if you've got any old paintbrushes, don't throw them away because you never know what kind of use you can find. But okay, this one here, I think it's a fail. So we're very quickly gonna make an extra one. Yes, we're making 11, but I'm committing to this 11th piece. Adding some gouache, but you know what? I don't think any of these worked either. Can we fix them? Maybe the paint was just a little bit too wet. The gouache moved too much. I don't know. I've never tried to fix paintings like this before, adding watercolor on top of gouache, but I think it worked. I got scared, made an extra one, but I don't think it was needed. Should have just had a little bit more faith in myself because we've done it. And I'm quickly gonna pop all of them under the scanner. These are little originals and I'd like to have some memory of them before they go off into their new homes. But first we need to cut them to size. If you remember, we made them a little bit big, so there are tape marks that we obviously don't want in the final piece. Rounding off the corners like a trading card, adding a signature in the corner, and just like that, the first set is done. 10 or 11 cute little galaxies. And how cool do they all look together? I don't know about this one. 10 colourful butterflies. Whilst we're using the same colour theme as before, back to these crazy colours. We're using the exact same theme, trying to figure out the front and back of these papers. Cut them all to size, roughly, with a little gap. Do the sketches, because the references we're using are actually from my Patreon. These are butterfly photos that I took over the years, and it's so lovely to finally bring them to life in this way. But we've got a system. We're starting with red. Again, this is cadmium red. The second is Pyrrole and alizarin crimson. The third is permanent rose leaning. There's 2 or 3 shades in each color, but we're using the exact same the whole way through. This means the same color theme is used for the galaxies and the butterflies, and it's going to be used throughout. And I've never painted anything like this before. Obviously, we're using watercolor. It is in a loose style, but I haven't painted a butterfly in years, and especially not in this style. I don't even know if it's gonna work. Like, look how much we're having to trust the process. The first layer is a big mess to the point that we can't even see that there is a butterfly there. Trying to work out the shapes and figure out where they are. And I probably should have left a little bit more of the paper shining through, because these are very colourful. Still, I think the second layer is kind of saving this. Like, the butterflies are now coming back. Unfortunately, we can't really make the pieces lighter, so we're gonna have to make them darker to add more contrast, like even darker, mixing in a little bit of neutral tint to each of them. We need some contrast, and technically, if you add darker shades, the lighter parts look lighter. Do you know what I mean? So that's the route that we're going, and they're kind of coming to life. We've got some stars, some dots, trying to make these as cute as possible. We've got the reds, we've got the blues. Now we're on to the greens. And you know what? I am loving this style. I think we're gonna be using it like a lot more. The little stars are so cute, even though some of them kind of failed, like that one. But that went pretty smooth. We are done. We just need to cut them all to size. After scanning them, of course, round off the edges. And here are all the little butterflies. This might be the cutest collection I've ever created. I love painting eyes, and I think I might be able to do them quite fast. So these are all the different colors. This is going to be in a loose flowy style, and I'll be using my own references. We're going to have to find those. That's right, we're creating the next 2 collections at the exact same time. I don't know if this is going to work. Reaching for the red as usual, because we're making a loose watercolor landscape at the same time as making a loose eye. So once we've grabbed a color, we're actually creating both of them at the exact same time. And at this point, I was pretty impressed with the eyes, but they actually end up going a different route. The landscapes, I mean, this first layer is super messy. It's really difficult to figure out exactly what we're doing, because with this art style, you really need to trust the process, and that's a bit difficult. Watercolor is messy. This style is messy. We have even more to make. We have loads. Obviously, it's taking longer to cycle through each color, but that first layer is so messy to the point that you can't even see really what's being made. But considering it's only 1 layer, I am so happy we included the eyes, because they are looking pretty good already. The landscapes, we'll come to that, okay? Because now we need to leave them all to dry for layer 2. And looking at these eyes, a big part of me really didn't want to touch them. They have this loose flowy look that I honestly love, and I think I might have overdone a couple of them a little bit. I felt like it was just a little bit too simple. The landscapes are really coming to life. Those are looking a lot better with the extra contrast. I'm just not sure it was the right move for these eyes. Some of them are coming to life, and some of them might have looked a little bit better beforehand. So we're going to go a different route. We're going to add lots more contrast to both of these. And that's the first lot done, so now we're moving on to the purple and blue shades, plus that random yellow one that we're going to come back to later on. Okay, the eyes are losing their cute flowy look, but look how much definition is there now. It's a completely different look, and in a lot of ways it does feel like a different art style, but they are coming to life. That contrast is needed. I love that we've got eyes, landscapes, and butterflies all in a similar style, because it does look like it was created by the same artist. And as someone that's really struggled to find my art style for so many years, looking at these pieces really just makes me happy, because I can see that I have finally found something that looks cohesive. There is no way that I would have been able to create these even last year. If you've been watching the channel for over a year, you'll know that I really only recently found my art style. So it is crazy watching this. It took me about 5 years to find my art style, and even now it's not super cohesive. You'll see today that we're creating a ton of different pieces. Even though this loose flowy style is in a few of them with different subjects, it still changes. And you know what? We're leaning into that. We are revisiting a couple of older styles, some that are different, as well as creating these cute little landscapes and the eyes. Unfortunately, these needed an extra layer or two. The problem with eyes is it's kind of hard to paint them quickly if you want to add lashes and eyelids and not have the iris blend into the entire eye. So there's a few extra steps, but I think it's completely worth it, especially with those little gel pen highlights. And I've added cute little stars. They are different from what I first pictured, but I'm loving this extra detail. Like, look at the contrast. So there's going to be a loose watercolor layer underneath, but with quite harsh lines. And then the Neocolor is going to be on top to add texture. Got the sketches rubbing out lines, and I guess we're on autopilot. Didn't even realize there was no water in there. Now this first layer, you're going to have to trust the process with me for. It's going to look like a mess. And you're just going to have to hope with me that we can somehow pull this together. Because we're going in with Neocolors and creating it's not a realistic landscape, but the colors are more realistic than what we've been doing recently. I don't really know how to explain it. Neocolor pastels have a lot of texture, so in person these ones are going to look really different to all of the others. If you haven't used Neocolor pastels before, they are really fun. They are kind of like crayons, but with lots of pigment, and these are actually the Aquarelle 2s. So if you add a little bit of water, it can almost turn into watercolor. I guess it feels closer to gouache because it goes quite thick. It is a wax, but you can have a lot of fun with this medium. So we're taking one at a time and just trying to bring that landscape back to life. And after adding the watercolor, I really struggled to see these sketches, which made it a little bit difficult. But you know what? We've painted a lot, so I'm loving having a break. These pastels are the kind of medium where you really just have fun and lean into it. I've actually never created an actual Neocolor piece like this. I've never used Neocolors on a single sheet of paper before, let alone making it as an original. I don't know why, I only really reach for Neocolors for the Daily Doodle Diary. This is the first time that I'm trying to create something proper with them, and I think I might need to do it more often. I don't know what the style is called. Let me know if you know. I don't know how to explain what these are, but they're cute little landscapes with texture. They look different from the collection. I don't know what I was expecting, but they were a lot of fun. And then we've got 10 Neocolor flowers in a vase. There'll be a watercolor background, and then the Neocolor will be on top. Do you remember these pieces of paper that we made at the very beginning, at the same time as painting those galaxies? Yeah, these are those. We've got the Neocolors out, and we are drawing some cute little flowers on top. We're following the same color theme, and since I've now got a huge pack of Neocolors, this is the pack that I picked up from Facebook Marketplace, which means we can actually match some of these colors quite closely. Apart from the yellow didn't really work, so you can see I had to add orange. Maybe the painted backgrounds were just a little bit too dark, because some of these Neocolors struggled to show up on them. Kind of meant I had to go for really light colors like this one, and then quite dark tones. A lot of the vases are from my imagination. I was trying to think of the most kooky shapes that I could. The flowers do follow a reference. loosely. And for the backgrounds, I kept them all simple. Generally, they are stripes, checkered, or little dots. And of course, we've got some stars in the corners. I guess this collection is the most minimalist, it's the most abstract. And whilst it does look different from the others, there are factors piecing it together. Like it has a watercolor background, it has neo-colors just like the one before. We've got the stars. So I think it's still connected. It's not that different, I don't think. And here's every single piece together. Loving how colorful these are. I don't know what happened there, but this is the paper collection. And the idea is this. These portraits with line art on top. It feels like I made loads of these because I kind of became obsessed with them and posted them online a lot. But I've actually only ever made those 4. So we're starting off with a very loose watercolor layer. The paper is wet and we're just popping down some colors and seeing what will happen. Every single piece has an eye, an eyebrow, and part of a nose. Considering these are trading card size, they are tiny. I don't think we would have been able to do a bigger portrait. Like it had to be pretty zoomed in order for this to work. And I still don't know if it will. There was no plan. This one is not in the sketchbook. This is a spontaneous idea that I came up with. I remembered this style that I absolutely loved. Haven't painted it in about 2 years. And thought, you know what, let's give it a go. Although there were initial ideas that obviously we were gonna do, the galaxies, the eyes, some landscapes, there were others that I didn't really like. And that's where these come in. We need a Posca. This one isn't really working. So we're gonna try this. It's thin, it seems to work. And this is always the scariest part. It's the most satisfying. Sometimes it splatters a little bit, so it's still scary, even more than you'd think. I actually ended up adding about 3 or 4 layers to each of these portraits. And then as soon as I added the white paint, realized there really wasn't any point. Most of it gets covered up anyway. But I am in love with this spontaneous collection. So happy we decided to do this. And I kind of want to make more. It's the morning and this is what it looks like. We're over halfway, there's 30 left. It's all colour themed, you don't know which colour you're gonna get, and I think that works really well for this. The only thing I really have to go off is that Crocodile was one of the favourites for Peachtober, and a lot of people liked the witch that I made for the Secret Santa. It took a while to figure out, and also with this style, it can really quickly easily go wrong. I don't know what the last one's gonna be. 10 colourful frogs, 10 colourful fish. These ones I put as landscape. I tried to stick to portrait as much as I possibly could, but I think the fish are gonna have to be landscapes. Well, this is going to be one busy day. We're starting 2 brand new collections that are going to be worked on at the same time, and you can't tell what any of them are. That first layer is always super messy, but I'm trying to leave more of the background showing this time. Unfortunately, I think the butterflies ended up a little bit dark, or at least the background did. So this time we're keeping it loose. And all of that color is going to be coming from the object in the foreground, which is either a fish or a frog. We're taking it one color at a time, following the rainbow. And the reason for this is mostly because I think there's less chance of getting any accidental contamination. It means the water doesn't need to be changed as often as well, because if you're creating 6 pieces that are like red, pinky red and pinky purple, they're really not that different from each other. And if a splatter accidentally goes on another, it's not the end of the world. Whereas if you're working on, say, yellow and blue at the exact same time, you might end up with green. You could really easily end up with green. And the splatters are kind of the hardest part because it makes a huge mess. But you would not believe how long all of this is taking. I love that we're able to make 2 collections in one and flow from one color to another, because it makes those final layers really fun because you finally get to piece everything together. But you know what? That first layer of all 20 isn't super fun because I've always struggled to trust the process. And honestly, how can you trust the process when you're looking at a pile of blobs? So the second layer was just trying to form any kind of shapes. And it's not until we finally get to the third layer that we can actually add definition and see how this is going to come together. And again, the neutral tint is being added. That's where you can see all of the contrast coming in. For a piece like this, it really is necessary, because if you're using something like permanent rose or even like gamboge or lemon yellow. They just don't go very dark. So I actually ended up adding quite a bit of orange to the yellow one and also quinacridone gold just for contrast. But now this is the setup. We need to add splatters, trying to save the wall here, but it didn't work because it went everywhere. It's a mess. And I'm reaching for this new gel pen. I picked up this in a stationery pal haul. Usually I reach for these Sakura jelly rolls, but I'm gonna say it now, having only used it briefly, I think this is better. It's the Uniball Signo, and it's kind of better. Those were the frogs, and these are the fishies. We are here, we're on the final 10, and we're actually reaching for acrylic markers. I have no clue if this is going to work on the watercolor paper, so how's about we give it a try? It didn't really, so we're reaching for the gesso and gessoing every single one because it did tear at the paper a little bit. This is handmade 100% cotton paper, so we need to gesso, which does kind of defeat the point of using watercolor, but I didn't have a 10th idea. Not one that I really liked until I thought of this. We're using acrylic markers and we're making a sunrise collection following the colors of the rainbow. And honestly, I don't think there's any misses in this collection. Like, even though I like pink, I actually think all of them worked so well. I don't even have a favorite color. Absolutely love the style. This is something I picked up when we painted a marker stand together. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave the video down below. It's almost like a block 2D style. That's what I call it. I don't know if it has a name. We're loosely adding blobs for an ocean, a sky, a sun, some clouds, but they're all in the same color, which is proving to be difficult. So all we can do is make sure that the lightest areas are the lightest on the painting. As long as the darkest areas are the darkest and the lightest are the lightest, the hope is that they're still gonna look like a scene, even though they're virtually monochrome. I don't know, do you think this is gonna work? Like green. We are using green to paint an ocean, a sky, some clouds. Those aren't green. So we're really having to trust the process here and working in lots of layers because I do not want this paint to crack. Unfortunately, sometimes paint markers do, and there's not really a lot you can do to avoid it other than giving it lots of time to dry, adding in the brightest highlights, the final scans before cutting them, rounding them, getting them all ready, because this is the final collection. We've created 101 trading cards. They're all up on my shop. Thank you so much for joining me for this crazy challenge. Please give this a like if you have. I'll be back on Sunday. I'll see you then. Bye bye.